My name is Edward Rudyk. Seward Park Urban Renewal area on the Lower East Side is where I spent my wonderful childhood. My parents were born in Poland and taken as forced laborers to Germany in 1941. After the war, my parents were placed in a displaced person camp in Germany and emigrated here with my siblings in 1951. I was born in the U.S. Looking at the S.P.U.R.A ruins, I can only think about my friends and neighbors. Mr. Nieves, his wife and son Franklin. Mr. Nieves was our super and my confirmation godfather. Mr. and Mrs. Ayala, his son Marvin and daughter Lucy. The Ortiz family who lived above us. I know they didn't move to Amalgamated, Hillman, or Seward Park. They weren't allowed to. What happened to my friends Georgie and Bobby Vasile? Mr. and Mrs. Ensminger. He was German, she was Puerto Rican. And their son Donald was my friend. What happened to Mrs. Mitchell and Mrs. Dumbovich, who spent hours looking out of the windows, watching the children and neighborhood children at play? What happened to Mr. and Mrs. Horn, an elderly Jewish couple who lived below me for many years? How long did they live after the trauma of being uprooted from their home? Looking at those ruins, now a truck parking lot basically, or truck parking lots, I remember the vile businesses that were shuttered. Zakheim the kosher butcher, where I packed eggs. Saber's hardware store, where I hung out and learned to hang drapery rods, shower doors, and deadbolt locks. What happened to Mr. Lee, the Chinese launderer, who used to give me $1 to wash his windows? I remember the fruit store. The owners, Mom, Pop, and Danny, were always very nice to me. I remember Tom's bicycle store. The story is that this African-American gentleman was a motorcycle policeman who was injured on the job, retired on disability, and started a bike store to repair children's bikes from the neighborhood. I remember Yachi, who owned this candy store on a turning Grand Street, along with his sister Jenny and their father Pop. Pop was an Albanian immigrant who came here for better life. Yachi stated for years that he would open a new candy store when the city rebuilt. Yachi is now dead. We had Roby's Furniture, Bridge Used Appliances, and George the Upholsterer on Delancey Street. There was a tire shop on Norfolk and Broome. After the rise of Castro, they put a mannequin in the window, dressed him up like Castro, and then took him out of the window when Castro proved that he was no friend of the United States. What happened to the many displaced parishioners from St. Mary's Church? I had a strong connection to the church. I was an altar boy and a member of the Adventure Corps. Tony Costa, an orphan of Portuguese descent, was a sexton and handyman. For many years, he treated me as a son he never had. I helped him prepare the church for Sunday Mass and set up and clean the bingo hall. The destruction around us, the destruction of a viable neighborhood, was done by ignorant people who knew nothing about neighborhoods. It was the master builder, Robert Moses, his puppets, developers, and politicians who enabled it. These are the same people who destroyed viable, thriving neighborhoods in the Bronx by condemning them and building the Cross Bronx and Bruckner Expressway. These are the same people who opened up a sham relocation office on Hugh Grant Circle in the Bronx that was seldom opened and never placed anyone. These were the same people who condemned and killed off neighborhoods in Brooklyn to build the Gowanus Expressway. These were the same people who saw transit by auto as the best way for people to get around the city and never invested in our mass transit system. One tactic Moses used was to have plans ready, hold sham public hearings or none at all, and at the last minute ramrod his projects through before communities knew what was happening. Many of those characters are now dead, but have been replaced by another cast of characters who already have plans for the site. I bet these plans do not include housing for the type of people who are displaced by this destruction and who this housing was promised for. Please be vigilant and informed and fight for what is right. Thank you very much.